Good evening and welcome to VSL Season 1 here under the floodlights of Singapore for round number 15. Today we have 13 drivers who are going to be battling it out between the F1 and F2 drivers for race victory here today. Just a quick run through as qualifying gets underway. Quick run through of the championship standings in both F1 and F2. Currently still leading the championship in F1 we have Matt Tibos, in second place currently is Ivion Mada with 111 points. The gap to Matt Tibos is to 186, which is 75 points. So with Tibos not here today, Mada would be interested to close that gap as much as possible. MK Future in third place with 101 points, 10 points further adrift. Zenki with 79, EFC Matthew with 77, Lee with 66, LMC Hamilton 48, Margaret Showman 41, Bugatti 37, and our new driver who managed to take victory in Belgium, ILT Neo with 27. Quick run through F2 standings. Kyle has stretched the gap after last week's disaster for Y-Racer to 27 points in the championship. He's currently on 200 points, Y-Racer with 173. Slowly closing the gap to the top two is RoboG with 169, and Big Max has getting himself involved as well with 160 points. Major Davis in the Ferrari with 122, Ahmed with 116, Liam 33, Goda 26, Coney 26, and Luke 16. So it's quite close between in F2, and with Tibos losing out on a few races, the gap will start to close in for F1 as well. Look at the constructors' standings at the moment. We have Haas leading the way with 113 points, McLaren close by with 109. This is due, these points are quite low due to the new format being brought into place between F1 and F2, so the constructors got scrapped and restarted. Renault have 94 points, Mercedes with 84, Ferrari with 83, Toro Rosso with 68, Williams 56, Red Bull 37, Force India 27, and Sauber with a lowly 19 points. Still all to play for with 6 rounds to go in this championship, as we have a bank of time starting to come in now in qualifying. Kyle in F2s with a 137, currently on a set of ultra softs and running very wide through turn 1 there, probably just to get out of the way of other drivers setting lap times. Very sensible, but he doesn't really want to be doing that just in case he ends up getting penalties. Major Davis is the only other driver to set a lap time with a 139 flat. He is on a set of softs. A lot of drivers looking to go on a set of softs here, with a few looking at the hyper softs. The one stop is still possible with ultras to softs, but what has been seen to be quicker is the 2-stop. We're starting on either hypers, and we're starting on the hypers and doing 2 stints on the ultras. Because this game's high temps have go a little bit over the top with Singapore, the carcass tends to overheat very quickly around this track. Tyre temps won't be an issue in this Grand Prix, so if basically drivers get the chance to push harder and harder through this fantastic circuit in Singapore. Currently on board now with Zenki, who looks to be on a lap in that beautiful orange McLaren. He'll be wanting to get as many points as possible to try and bring himself into the championship battle for F1. Coming to the final sector, final few hours, there's a slow Ferrari, doesn't get in the way, which is fantastic, and through the final corner he comes. Is he starting or is he setting? He's just about to start a lap, so we'll run on board with him now up towards turn 1, taking as much wide line as possible. This gets a better turning into turn 1, into turn 2 and 3, up towards the first and one of the first and only straights on this track. DRS are wide open, as you can see. ERS probably in high mixtures as well, as there is a yellow flag in sector 2 and 3, probably for slow drivers letting others through. Still a few more times coming in quick and fast, with Lee setting a 138 on a set of softs. A few drivers wanting to pick the hardest compound, but what they need to realise that if they do start on the hardest compound and end up getting damage, they will be limited to tyres for the following stints. So it'd be easier to start on a softer compound, and if you do end up getting ring damage or any sort of damage throughout the race, and then the softs would be the better option because you force and run them towards the end of the race. So still on board with Zenki here, looking to see whether he can push himself towards the top of the standings for qualifying. 137 is still yet to be beaten, but that is on a softer compound of the ultra softs. Coming through the tunnel now, a lot of drivers can make a lot of errors coming up to that section depending on where they brake, because if they underbrake there is a runoff area, but a lot of drivers need to realise there is a very high comp. So coming through the final corner now, what is his lap time? 1:36.7. Fantastic from Zenki there. Puts himself into provisional pole on a set of soft tyres. Be good work from the F1 driver. And Neo follows suit on a set of softs, but doesn't go quicker, only does a 1:36.8, just 1.5 tenths separate these two drivers. So the Haas drivers currently doing very well for themselves to try and extend their constructors title charge, with RLT Neo currently sat in position 2 on the grid for F1, and Kyle in P1 for F2. Not to forget, if you do get pole position, you do manage to get yourself a fastest lap bonus point. So getting pole doesn't just benefit you on starting further up the grid, but benefits you in the points as well. Still a few drivers yet to set lap times, such as Sam, Brandon, Matthew, Matt, Yuri and Metzer, still all yet to set. Looks like they're all going to be starting. Well, Matt, Yuri and Metzer look to be going for the ultra softs. Matthew in the pink Force India on the softs. Brandon on the hypers. Interesting, the only driver to looks like he's going to be setting a lap time on the hypers. And then Sam on a set of ultras as well. Bit of action in the pits as drivers start coming in, wanting to put probably a bit of fresh rubber. If you have put a bank of lapping on softs, and I don't seriously think they're going to be starting on the softs, they'll probably come in and probably either switch to a set of ultras or go all out on a set of hyper softs. Every point matters in this league, so it doesn't matter where you finish in the race, it just matters where you finish in your tier. A little bit of connection with the wall there for Sam. Hopefully he hasn't got any damage out of it. It doesn't look like it on his front wing, but it will hinder him a little bit for his lap time. Coming through the final sector now. Very long this track, lots of corners, 23 corners, and across the line to set. Nothing. He's starting a lap, not finishing. So here we go then. Can he hook it up this time? Hopefully not make a mistake he made on his out lap, where he sort of did a little clip with the wall. But as I was saying, 23 corners on this lap. No corner similar to the rest, but all very daring under the brakes as well. A few places to overtake, a lot easier to overtake than it is Monaco as another street circuit, but you need to be a lot more daring if you do want to be overtaking on this track. So track position is not as key as Monaco, but is still quite important as well. Metzer's doing F2 proud. As we can see, he is currently in pole position for that tier on a set of ultra softs, running a little bit slowly, playing it sensible, getting out of the way of the Williams of Brandon or Lezen, or he doesn't like me to call him Lesney Gaming. That will stick. So yeah, provisionally pole for Metzer, excellent job on the Ultras as well. Only a 10th off his F1 teammate, which is interesting. So currently, both McLarens are looking at pole positions for both tiers. For now, although Brandon ends up getting himself pole position in the Williams on a set of Hypersofts, 135.2, and Sam follows suit. Fantastic lap from him as well, 136.4 on the Ultrasofts. So 1.2 seconds separates the gap between these two drivers, with a further 0.3 to Zenki on similar strategy to Flexi. But still autoplay 4, 5 minutes to go, 2 drivers still yet to complete a lap. However, I have just noticed the Renault, the sole Renault in this race, has retired. I'm not sure whether he has lost it somewhere while pushing for a lap, or has realised that he would rather start towards the back on a fresher set of tyres compared to the rest of the grid. But it's not going to help him with his title hopes. I had a little interview with him before the race that he wanted to follow suit with whatever strategy Kyle was going to go for. So from the looks of things, Kyle will be starting on a set of Ultras unless he switches to a Hypers for his final flying lap. But if the strategic call is correct, Yuri will be looking to copy that, just to try and cancel out during the race, just to cancel out any pace differences between the two drivers. So the current order between these drivers is Brandon on the front row in P1 with Sam following in suit in the other Force India. Then you have Zenki, Big Metzer, Neo, Kyle, AFC Matthew in P7, EBR Madder, Lee, Major Davis, Ahmed and Robojeep, who is still yet to set a lap time. From the looks of things, he's either on an out lap now or he is pushing all the way. From the looks of things, he is pushing. He's got EOS in the hardest you can go in hot lap mode. So coming towards the final sector, under the tunnel we go. Doesn't want to be touching any walls, but wants to be pushing it to the limits. Up towards the final 2 corners. Where will this put him on the grid for F2? Currently P6, but currently sitting in, as I am aware, position, I think it'll be position 2, and here we have it, a new fastest lap time. Fantastic from ILRT Neo on the Ultras as well, a 1:34.5, 8/10 quicker than Brandon on a set of Hypersofts. So it looks to be that the Ultras seem to be the better tyre to be doing your qualifying laps on, because it seems that the Hypers just only really got that 1 lap pacing, and if you make one mistake then you haven't really got enough tyre grip to do an outlap and then push for another lap. So there's only 2 minutes left, quite a few drivers still in the pits, but I believe all of them will be wanting to come out. As we can see, yeah, absolute trainer lane coming out of the pit lane of Zenki would be Matthew, and the Ferrari of EVR Madder. Madder would want to do a lot better. He's currently the second last F1 driver on the grid at the moment. So we're wanting to improve. He'll have 1 lap to do it. From the looks of things, he's going to have to push on his out lap to make it round. He should easily do it, with it being a 1:34, 1:35 lap time, and he's already towards the second sector. So he's basically his last. And Metzer is out. What has he done there? Has he hit the wall, got wing damage, and thought, no, I can't do it? Or has he actually had a massive incident somewhere? And Matt starts another lap. I believe he's going to have enough fuel. It's going to be his last dash to get himself up towards, take pole position from Metzer for this Grand Prix. going to ride on board with Neo as he looks to be pushing on another lap, taking track limits to the extreme there. Opens DRS up towards one of the harder braking zones on this track of turn 7, now to turn 8, shifts it low. This is a very key corner as well, because you can't carry too much speed because of the barrier that pops out on the other side on the exit of the corner, so you have to brake perfectly and sweep it through. Now through this very interesting complex set of corners of 10, 11 and 12, coming up towards another hard corner of turn 13. Very tight, and the yellow flag in sector 1, and that is it. Everyone who is on a lap now is that where they're going to set. We can see that Sam has finished, and so has Kyle. They won't be improving anymore on the grid. We'll see if anybody can knock IRT Neo from the pole position of the F1, or anybody can knock Lee now. No, Metzer, not Lee. Metzer off pole, and RoboJeep has done that. So he has done just under a tenth quicker than Metzer's lap time to put himself into provisional pole for F2. But sticking on board with, and Neo has realised his time wasn't good enough to improve. He's bailed out, and into the pits he comes. On board with Brandon as he comes through the final sector now. 6th through the final provisional, and he does improve, but not enough to take pole position. Ahmed is out of the Grand Prix as well. On board with Zenki has scrapes the wall coming through the last few corners. Can he knock Neo off pole position? No, he can't. Up to 3rd, and as you can see, Mana has improved as well, up to 4th. From the looks of things, is an F2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then even 6th, and then we have AFC Matthew not really setting a decent time either. So after the F2 drivers, he's starting quite a way down. But congratulations to IRT Neo as he takes himself another pole position in this season of VSL Formula 1 racing. It's not all over yet. Just because qualifying is finished doesn't mean it is game over for the rest of the drivers. There's going to be 31 interesting laps to go in this Grand Prix, so we'll just quickly run through the order once the screen comes up. So we have Arlety now taking pole position for F1. Then we have Lezen Gaming, Zenki, Evian Mada, Lee and Flexi all in F1. And then we have RoboJeep taking pole position for F2 with Metzer, Major Davis, Kyle. Ifsy Matthew for F1 is all the way down there in P7 of the F1. And then we have Ahmed and a Y Racer without a lap time. 13 drivers on the grid. How many will finish? We'll soon find out in the next couple of minutes. Drivers are starting to load in now. A lot of them just wanting to watch the F1 intro screen as they come through. But drivers are starting to ready up. Looking at the strategy call for the race, all those drivers that started on the ultras will probably be looking at a one stop onto the softs. And so here we go. The formation lap is underway. What is Zinky doing on the formation lap? I would say it's key, but because tyre temps have turned off, I don't really think formation lap is really necessary. Just to run through it, but just to run through the grid once more. But RLT Neo Legend Gaming, Zenki, Ivy Armada, Lee, Flexi, Rubber Jeep, Big Metza, Major Davis, Kyle, EFC Matthew, Ahmed, and a YSL round the grid. Here we wanted to take a lot of speed into this race. Will YSL to claw his way back up the grid, and so will his fellow teammates in team speed of Robo Jeep, Metza, and Major Davis. They'll be looking to fight the few ILRT drivers that are currently on the grid, such as Neo and Mala, as far as I'm aware. As we said, 31 laps of this race to go. Quite a long lap time as well, so it'll be interesting to see when people start to stop. We'll just have a look at the tyres. People are starting on top. Leslie and Ivy Armada both starting on a set of hypers. Then we have Neo, Zenki, Lee, Flexi, Robo Jeep, Metza, Major Davis, Kyle, and Y-Race are all on the Ultras, and the only two drivers that are starting on the hardest compound available at this track are EFC Matthew and Ahmed, both on the set of softs. We see the drivers starting to line up on the grid now. A few drivers disqualified, probably because they didn't want to run through the formation lap, as there was no tyre wear needed, no tyre temps needed to heat up the tyres to their optimal temperature. So 13 drivers on the grid. How many will finish? We'll soon find out. When will the hypers guys stop? When will the ultras stop as well? So we're getting ready for the 5 red lights. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And the lights are out here under the floodlit track of Singapore. Excellent start from Neo. Although the Williams of Leslie wants to go up the inside into turn 1. A little bit of contact between the two, but Neo holds on to the lead, with Brandon holding back in P2. Zenki wants to nibble on the Williams driver for second place, but doesn't get the move done. Drivers starting to file through now onto this long back straight. We've got Evie Armada starting to pull away, top 4 starting to pull away from the rest of the grid, as the Toro Rosso of Lee and Flexi going side by side into turn 7. Flexi has the move done up to P5, Lee dropping back to P6. A Big Metza wants to get involved as well. He's managed to jump Robo Jeep off the start and wanting to bite on the heels of the other Toro Rosso driver. He's now stuck in a sandwich. There's a little bit of contact, and EFC Matthew has retired from the Grand Prix. YRS has done a fantastic job and made a few places, but what has happened to EFC Matthew there at the start? I know he was starting at the back of the grid, but something must have happened between some of the F2 drivers and himself. As you can see, Major Davis and YRS are starting to battle each other, wanting to battle each other indeed, especially with Major Davis losing the position to YRS so early on. Kyle's dropped back a few positions as well. That will be happy for YRS to claw himself back into this championship. He wants to finish as far up in front of Kyle as possible as we start to round off lap 1 of this Singapore Grand Prix. Neo still leading the way. Oh, a little bit of contact with the wall. Does he have damage? Not too sure. That will infect him a lot indeed if he does, as he crosses the line to finish lap 1. So far, all clean other than what happened to EFC Matthew at the back. We have Neo from Brandon, Zenki, Mada, Flexi, Lee, Big Metza, and then Robo Jeep right on the rear gearbox of Big Metza in the McLaren. Then you have Y-Racer, Major Davis, Kyle and Ahmed rounding out the grid so far. He is on the soft, Ahmed. He'll be wanting to keep out of everyone else's way because he will be pushing long and hard into the Grand Prix on those soft compound tyres. But if someone starts to fall back on those ultra softs, he'll probably start battling with them as well. He just needs to bide his time because he will be on the faster compound towards the end I see a little bit of battle coming together between Zenki and Lesnar Gaming. Oh, a little look up the inside. Very cheeky from Zenki there in the McLaren. Doesn't want to be putting his nose up there because he doesn't want damage, but he's literally pushing Brandon through these corners. He is on a harder compound as AFC Mazda gets a little bit of a slide out of turn 13, but not too much damage with Sam closing on him. Zenki wants to make this move quick and fast because he realises that once he gets past Brandon, it's just a fight between him and Neo to the end because they're both on the same strategy. But it looks to me that Lesnar seems to be struggling on those hypers. I don't think it was the best strategic call to start on them, but he's not pushing them as quickly as he wants. So what Zenki needs to do is just bide his time. Where can he overtake? Where can he get him? Does he wait till the lap 3 starts so he can get DRS? But onto lap 3 now, into the slipstream he goes. Not making a move this time, but later onto the brakes than Brandon. Up towards turn 3. Now this little kink of turn 4 towards turn 5. He will be getting DRS because he's definitely within 1 second. Can he get a better exit off of turn 5 onto the DRS straight? We go into the slipstream. DRS wide open. Brandon covers the inside. Zenki's going to have to do it round the outside. Stay scrape wheels. He's been pushed off the track a little bit. Zenki's still got the inside line for the next corner of turn 8, but Brandon is still there. They're fighting side by side with each other. Excellent racing, and Brandon has retaken position. Although Zenki gets a better exit out of the following corner, he's going to have the inside line for turn 10. Oh, and there's contact, and Zenki is into the barriers. Wing damage there, but no wheel, and he has retired from the Grand Prix. And Brandon looks like he has got damage as well. Both of these drivers are not very happy with each other. There's going to be some chat in this group chat later while this race continues, which promotes Evie Almada up to a podium position, P2, and same with Sam. They're going to be battling now for P2 because RRT Neo is racing away in this Grand Prix. When we saw him clip the barrier, literally just there, it didn't look like he got any damage at all, so he's going to be flying now and pushing as hard as he can. What Evie Almada has to do now is think strategically for the next couple of laps. He is on the hyper softs, he is on the softer compound, he will be needing to pit a lot earlier than the rest of the drivers around him. When does he pit? And can he make what I think will be either a very stretched 1-stop or a quite comfortable 2-stop? Where will this put him? Because the drivers that he'll be battling with will more likely be the F2 drivers when he comes out of the pits, especially if doing a 2-stop. So we have 2 casualties so far in this Grand Prix, both F1 drivers of Zenki and EFC Matthew. The closest battles on screen look to be between the 2 speed teammates as YSL makes a move up the inside of Robo Jeep. He wants to be making this position and he's going to have the outside. He gets squeezed into the wall, a bit cheeky from there from Robo Jeep, then holds onto the position, starting to back him into the other speed driver of Major Davis. Doesn't want to be doing that because it makes YSL vulnerable to the slipstream for Davis to tag along with. Got to be single file through this next section of track because it's very tight indeed. You don't want to be making any moves. It looked like he was going to make a move there, YSL, but he thought better of it. A little bit late under the brakes, giving RoboG a little bit of a nudge, telling you to hurry up, keep pushing, because I want to get by you as quickly as possible because you're leaving me into the trap of Major Davis in the Ferrari behind, and Kyle, who is catching up as well, especially with the championship battle that is going on between these drivers. Big Metz has got a quiet race on his hands. He's got a 2.5 second gap to Lee in front of him, but he is leading the F2 tier, so he'll be looking to bag himself 25 points, while the rest of the drivers seem to be squabbling over the podium positions between Rubber Jeep, YRacer, Major Davis and Kyle. Ahmed's starting to drop back a bit. As I said, he's going to have a quiet race starting on the softs, but he's going to be faster and quicker towards the end on the ultras, where the rest are going to be on the softs. Not quite quick, the softs, but they are very durable around this race track. So time for Yuri to think, where's he going to get him? He will have DRS. Matt does not have DRS on this straight, but he doesn't seem to be close enough. He's going to go for a late lunge. He thinks about it, but thinks better of it. He doesn't want to cause any contact, create any damage between those two drivers, because Matt wants to get into the championship battle and YSL wants to regain any chance of claiming the victory of the championship. Still quite a few races to go, and YSL has ran a very wide there. Major Davis seemed to have followed him a little bit, but he's lost heaps of time now to RoboJeep. The gap is now 1.5 seconds between them. A lot of time there. I don't know what YSL was thinking. He must have braked quite lately and realised it. He didn't manage to stop in time, and luckily he didn't hit the wall, because that could have been a calamity for him. He would have had to stop quite early onto the softs and maintain those 4:26 laps. But now the Ferrari of Major Davis is closing in, still on the back of YSL. He needs to start pushing now to regain that 1 second window between himself and RoboJeep, because otherwise it's going to be susceptible to a pass by the Ferrari. He's got to have a better exit out of this corner. He's got a better exit out of turn 5 as well. Kyle wants to get in on the action as well. He's right on the gear of Major Davis. I'm not sure what's happening here. There might have been team orders between the speed drivers to start backing off each other and not battle each other as much. Otherwise you don't want to be causing calamity between themselves. So, and also it could be a tactic that Major Davis starts holding off Kyle, because this is what happens in racing. You can just put a tactical place for one driver to start holding another driver up purposely. Who knows? Who knows indeed. But yeah, YS has just got to focus now. He doesn't want to make any more mistakes. He has got a nice cushion now of 0.5 second to Major Davis, so he increased it to 7/10. What are these tyres like now? What the question is, what is EV Armada's tyres like now? 6 laps in, he's probably done two laps on them in qualifying as well, one including a hot lap, so push on them. So when will he be making a stop? He will probably be one of the first drivers to be making this. Lee gets himself a 3 second time penalty. That will help Matt out a little bit, but from the looks of things, yeah, he did let Sam did get through quite early on, and it's just now tried to control. A little slide there from EV Armada. Seems to be losing a lot of and he does look like he's going to be diving into the pits. He does indeed. He's taken those tyres 7 laps. Doesn't want to be speeding into the pit lane either. Where will he rejoin? I think he'll comfortably come out in front of Lesney. But will he come out of Ahmed? Because if he doesn't come out of Ahmed, he could hold him up. He doesn't come out in front of Ahmed. He's going to try and push now on these ultras. He is doing the 2-stop. Unless the safety car comes out, he is definitely doing... Well, even if the safety car does come out, he's definitely doing a 2-stop. But with the safety car, it will help him a lot more with tyre wear, and will bring him back into the fight for podium positions between himself, Flexi and Lee. Metzer seems to be slowing down a little bit. The RoboJeep starting to catch up. It's within 1 second now as YS has started to fall back a little bit more. Nearly 2 seconds to gap between those two drivers. But he has managed to pull away from Major Davis over a second. He has managed to break that 1 second window, which is good for him. He doesn't want to be falling into because if he kept it within 1 second, then Kyle would stop catching up as well, because he's within a second of Davis. So it's a strategic call now between these drivers. They're all part of different teams, so it won't really matter that much with Metzer, Robo, Y-Racer, Davis, as Neo gets himself a penalty. It won't affect him too much, but if he keeps getting penalties, he could start losing the lead. He does have a 9 second gap, so 3 seconds or 8.6. If 3 second time penalties come into account and Sam or Lee don't get any penalties, they could snatch the victory away. But he's just got to keep his head down here as Y-Racer gets himself a 3 second time penalty. It's a very interesting line through the final corner. Where are you going, Sunshine? They took the widest line possible, managed to get back on track before the wall stopped closing in on him towards the finish line. Didn't mean to manage to lose a position, but he does now have a penalty, which benefits RoboJeep and Metzer a lot more because they don't have penalties yet. I say yet because there's quite a few places that you can go and got on this track, and it could even be the slightest, or even just if you brake a little bit late in track extend, whether it be where iRacer did, or whether it be turn 1, turn 2. A lot of places that are just where the white lines are, this game seems to think you're track extending. So I don't know how many warnings other drivers have got, but Wireless is one of the only drivers to get himself a penalty. Starting to calm down a bit. Not many overtakes, as is similar to Monaco. It seems to be one of those places and one of those races that doesn't seem to get many overtakes once the field starts to spread out. That when you're within that 1 second window, as I've seen in other Grand Prix, that you might be within that 1 second window, you might have DRS, you might have slipstream, you might be pushing your ERS to the maximum, but it's just places to find to overtake is the difficult part. Do you take the risk and just shove your nose in there? Yellow flag in Sector 3, and Flexi is gone. How has he managed to bin that on the exit of the final sector? He is gone. There goes the chance of a victory, or just even a podium possession for the Force India driver, and that means both Force India drivers are out once again. It's literally Spa all over again for these two drivers. Both Force India are gone, which promotes Lee up to second position in the F1 tier. And Metzer now currently, even though he's in third in this Grand Prix, still in first place in the F2. The gap between himself and Robo is starting to get a little bit closer. Metzer seems to be making a few more mistakes, and RoboGP is now right on his gearbox. Will RoboGP be risking any moves as Kyle and Davis look to be battling side by side? They go a little bit of contact between Davis as he tries to retake the position, and he gets back through, nearly shoves Kyle into the wall. A little bit aggressive from there, but all racing as it is in this Grand Prix. A little bit of nudging, a little bit of barging, as long as there's no damage and as long as no forceful shoving them into walls, as Kyle tries to do a switchback. A little bit of a lock-up from Kyle, which won't help his front tyres that much, but he's made the move once. Where will he be able to make the move again? It seems to be that Davis is either backing off to help iRacer, or he's just struggling on these tyres. And Lesney has gone from the Grand Prix as well. He was sitting dead last in 10th place, but I've said this many a time, he's probably just lost it, although who knows. He thought probably I won't get anywhere near, no point doing 21 laps when you're all by yourself, is it? But keep an eye on this little battle between Davis and Kyle. It looks like Kyle's got a better exit. It's right in the slipstream. Davis is going to be covering the inside line, but Kyle looks to mighty added on. Who's going to be later on the brakes? Davis keeps the inside line, but it's going to have the inside for turn 3. Forces Kyle round the outside. A little bit of argy-bargy between those two drivers. I don't think Kyle's very happy with the way Davis has been driving, but then again, it is leaving you the space. Even if it is minuscule space, it is leaving you the space. So is he going to be making a late move? He's being forced to the outside. May switch back up to the inside. Contact between these two drivers once again. Side by side action towards turn 8. Davis has the inside line. Surely not two cars going through there. And Kyle is in the wall. He has got himself wing damage. Side by side through there is not recommended because it's just so tight. Such a tight corner. And from the looks of things, Kyle has got himself a little bit of wing damage. Probably not enough, because he seems to be still closing up on Davis. I don't know why Davis is not pulling away now, but Kyle looks like he might be wanting to get vengeance on this little move that Davis had pulled on him. But it's not making it easy. Davis is not making it easy for the Haas driver. Not at all. What Kyle will need to think now, because if he does need to pit, it doesn't look like he's got damage on his wing from the graphic, but it could be minuscule. It could be just affecting him a little bit through corners. What Kyle would need to think now is, can he do the undercut? He needs to try and either mirror Davis when he pits, or do the opposite. It doesn't seem, he is going to come in now. Kyle is in the pits, the first driver on the Ultrasofts to make a pit stop, keeping it nice and slow. 37 miles an hour is the speed limit into the pit lane. So, will he get a wing change? We'll soon find out as he comes towards the Haas pit crew. Make sure they get the right tyres on and screw them on properly. He is going to go onto the set of softs as predicted, and it is a wing change. So there was a little bit of damage and carbon fibre fly off the Haas car when he tapped the wall, squeezed into the wall. And from the looks of things there, a little bit of team orders. Major Davis letting his fellow Ferrari driver of EVR Mada through. But then again, Mada is probably on fresher tyres, and he's on the two-stop as well. So a little bit of team orders probably there between the Ferrari boys. We know what it's like between Vettel and Raikkonen, so maybe one day Davis will get his shot of pushing Mada out of the way in one way or another. Only 9 drivers left in this race, and as we can see, Kyle is on the set softs. He'll be going straight to the end. 20 laps on these is quite easily doable with this hard compounded tyre. 32 seconds is the gap to Ahmed in the Mercedes, but that's because he had a wing change. Depending now, how hard can Kyle push these softs? How quick can he start to closing the gap to Davis? As he'll be making a pit, when he makes his pit stop, he will have a nice gap in front. So because of the wing damage, and Rover is promoted. I was about to say, how did he get in? But then again, RLT Neo has made a stop, and so has Lee, and so has Metzer. The Ultrasoft seems to be running low on tyre grip now, as the top 3 drivers that were running in this race have switched to a set of softs. And Davis is in as well. He's coming to cover off Kyle. He seems to be frozen in the pit. I'm not sure why. And away he goes. Did he have a 5-second stop though? I don't think so. I think it might be just the graphic not clicking into position. Where's Kyle in all of this? Coming up towards the pit entry. So I think Davis might have a clear run. I don't think he will. Did he have a wing damage change? Here we go then. Up towards turn 1. Where's Kyle going to come? Davis has to go very slowly not to cross the pit exit. Car's going to be pushing on exit. They're going to be side by side going through turn 3. Oh my goodness me. Carl has managed to get the jump on Davis in the pit stops with a wing damage change, but Davis must be making a move on the side. He thinks better of it. But will he get DOS? He will indeed. He's going to have slipstream as well. Will he be making any late moves? He's quite a long way back, to be fair to him. So I think the gifted place has been given to Kyle. I don't think Davis's pace is there just enough to keep up with him. So we'll keep this battle in mind, but I think RoboJeep and Y-Racer will both be making a pit stop either at the end of this lap or another lap. I'm not sure what the strategy of these guys are. I know RoboJeep loves a good strategic call to try and use the 2 softest compounds in a 50% race, and they both seem to stay out. Their tyres seem to be doing a lot better than the other drivers that seem to make their pit stop. But then again, it's more of a safety call with these other drivers that have gone into the softs, because they know the softs can go a very long way into this race. So there's only 3 drivers on the grid left to make a pit stop, which are RoboJeep, Y-Racer and Ahmed, all F2 drivers. So, and I believe RoboJeep and Y-Racer will be wanting to push now, especially RoboJeep, because he will be wanting to battle with Big Metzer for the race victory for F2. Doesn't want to be losing any ground on him in the pit stops. Quick look on the gaps between them to the leader. So the gap between Metzer and RoboJeep is 24 seconds is the gap. Seems to be around about that time for a pit stop. It's quite a slow pit lane and quite long as well. As we saw, Davis lost quite a bit of time due to it. But what RoboJeep needs to do is try and keep pushing, although the gap is starting to tumble now. Suarez comfortably lets Neo through. I don't think he'll be wanting to battle that. They're both on different strategies, both in different tiers. Still want to battle, but he doesn't want to be causing any havoc to the F1 drivers. But yeah, as I was saying, the gap's starting to close down between Robo and Major Davis has made the move on Kyle. Just a little look on the graphic there. Seems to be later under the brakes. I don't know what has happened. He seems to have a better traction as well. He's already clawed together 7/10 between the 2 drivers. But as we've seen, Davis seems to back up a little bit on pace when he gets in front of a driver. But when he's behind, he seems to do a lot better. And EVR Mada has been through by Warris, and Warris has pit. He'll assumably be pitting on a set of softs. The gap between himself. He'll be coming out within the battle of Metzer and Lee, so it'll be interesting where he comes out. Metzer's coming through the final corner now across the start finish lane. He should comfortably come out in front of Wyracer. He does indeed. He's going to have a lot more pace, and he's going to have to be a lot quicker through turns 1, 2 and 3. Does Wyracer come out in front of Lee? He doesn't, but it might be quite close on towards turn 3. No, and Wyracer has slotted into P7. Eyes are all now on RoboJeep. How far can he push these ultras if he wants to try and do a very dodgy one stop onto the hypers? I think the best option for him now would be to go onto the softs, just to save himself any risk of any punctures, especially on both sets of tyres. He is being pushed around the corners now by EVR Matter. Will he let him through simply, or will Matt fight it? Will the two Matts fight each other? And up the inside goes Matter up to the podium position of position 2, with another stop still to do from both these drivers, so they could be battling all the way to the end, depending on which driver has the better pace, because they're both, to be fair, Matter will be on the ultras and Robo will be on the softs, so he will start to fall away a bit, but he needs to think now when is the best time to pit. I think now, because he's losing quite a bit of time to Big Metzer. So, and into the pits he comes. Very good strategic call from the Toro Rosso boys. Don't be speeding into the pit lane either, and I think he'll come out. I think he should come out just in front of a Wyracer, although they might be battling on exit. We'll keep an eye on these two. Yep, Robo is now left the Toro Rosso pit box. Metzer comes out comfortably in front of him. Where will he join? Lee is in front of him, and Wyracer has jumped him. Wyracer has managed to jump RoboJeep. Doing that extra lap for Matt has not really helped him in this situation. He will have just one lap fresher, softer tyres, but I don't think it really matters too much considering how far you can stretch the softs. So what Robo needs to do now is just rethink, start pushing and try and catch up with this battle, because Wyracer is starting to get up by his teammates. So it literally is a Toro Rosso sandwich with a Renault filling. Yuri doesn't really want to be stuck in a sandwich himself, so he'll want to try and overtake the other Toro Rosso as quickly as possible, if he can, because Lee is an F1 driver, so he's probably got a little bit more pace. But all about how you take these corners, all about how you take your exits. Do you tap the walls or don't you? A little bit of a lock up from Lee there in towards turn 13. So can Wyracer take advantage of those lockups? Can you think, oh, if he's going to lock up, can I make a little cheeky dive up the inside, stick my nose in there and force Lee to leave the space? But it looks to me that, yeah, 3 seconds, at least 3 seconds has been lost between Matt and Wyracer. That will be a long going battle towards the end of the Grand Prix. 10 seconds back is Major Davis. He is still battling with Kyle. I think that's going to be a race long battle between those two, especially the argy-barges they've been giving each other throughout this Grand Prix so far. So Kyle needs to think now, wherever Davis has made moves, can I make the move, or does he start leaving it for the DRS straights and corners that are easily manoeuvrable for overtakes? He does get a nicer run. Major Davis is weaving all over the track trying to break the slipstream. Kyle doesn't get anywhere near into turn 1, but will he be able to get himself on the exit of turn 5? As we're reaching the halfway stage, just past the halfway stage, a little one through the grid at the moment. All drivers have, not all drivers, only one driver left to make his first pit stop, and one other driver still to make a stop as well. So we'll just run through the grid quickly. Arlington Neo in first, Davio Malo in second, Ahmed third, Big Metzer fourth. Currently in provisional, he will be in provisional first place when Ahmed makes his pit stop, because there is only a 5-second gap between those two drivers. Then you have Lee in P5 in the first Toro Rosso, and then in the sandwich of the Toro Rosso is Wyracer, RoboJeep in 7th, Davis 8th, and the 9th and final runner in this Grand Prix of Kyle in the Haas. Both Haas drivers still winning, so we'll get some fantastic constructors points to try and extend their lead in the constructors to Renault, and both Ferraris are in, and both Toro Rossos as well. So a lot of teams getting double points for their teams towards the constructors, wanted to get themselves into the battle for the constructors. Metzer will solely get points for the McLaren, as his teammate Zenki had a little incident with Brandon towards the start of this Grand Prix, and Force India won't be getting anything at all. So, and Mercedes will be getting their sole driver as well as Renault, because Renault's F1 title charging driver couldn't be here today either. So Warris will probably be thinking, nah, I don't really want to battle for the constructors without my other driver. He'll be wanting to focus it, although he has closed right on the back of Lee. It looks to be like he'll be making a move up the inside. He sticks his nose in there, rides the curb a little bit, doesn't have the greatest exit, but Lee gave him the space. He made it look like he wanted to force him to make a move, and Warris doesn't get it done there. But it has been seen that Warris seems to be having a little bit more pace on these 2 lap pressure softs. With the lockups that Lee's been having, he's starting to make a few mistakes. His Warriors are getting better exits and better traction off corners. It's taken a tighter line than Lee does into turn 13, but that compromises his run on exit. So, do you take a wider line into a corner? Do you take a tighter line? Do you just follow your driver's line in front of you? So these 2 battles I'm going to be sticking with. Although Metzer's now on the back of Ahmed. Ahmed is still yet to stop. Will Ahmed be making it easy for Metzer? As, yeah, he does indeed. Is Ahmed making his one and only pit stop? He'll be on fresher rubber ultra softs to the end. A little bit early, I think. And probably could have pushed those softs a little bit, one more lap to make the ultras a little bit more easier. But Metzer now has taken provisional lead of, well, I'll say provisional. I think he'll get the job done unless Warris can catch up to him, but there is a little incident of a Toro Rosso stuck in the way. Metzer currently leading the F2 drivers in that sole McLaren, as Warris currently in position 2, which will be fantastic for him because he'll start reeling in Kyle, as Kyle sits in 5th place in the F2. So Kyle will be getting 10 points and Warris will be getting 18, so that's an 8-point gap closing, puts the gap to 19 points in the championship. It will help Ryerson more than it will help Kyle, and any point will do in this championship. So Ryerson seems to be still stuck behind Lee. Is he going to start? Will he try and force the move, or will he just drop back? Because if he can get the move done, if he can get by Lee, then he can start charging after the race win of Metzer. He's only 3.3 seconds up the road. But at the moment, it seems to be being held up. He is still within the 1 second, like 0.9 seconds, but doesn't seem to be pushing as much as he was. As Lee gets himself a 3-second time penalty, it won't affect these drivers behind him, as they're all F2 drivers. So there were three F1 drivers and 6 F2 drivers left in this Grand Prix. So Lee is basically, as long as he finishes, he's guaranteed a podium, and a very easy podium at that. Although he could be battling with Madder towards the end of this Grand Prix. 25 seconds is the gap between Madder and Lee. So when Matt makes his second and final stop onto a set of ultras, they're going to be battling to the end. Will Lee make it difficult for him? Will Lee make it as difficult to Matt as he is making it to Yuri? Although they are in different tiers, so I think Lee will probably try and make it a little bit more difficult, because I think he'd rather take second and third, or take those championship points away from the Ferrari boys, showing that Toro Rosso are not just the second team to Red Bull, who had a no-show here today. They can pull their weight in Formula 1. The gap is back to half a second between these two drivers. So can Yuri make a move? Where can he make the move? And how will he make the move? Will he just stick it up the inside, as we've seen? A little lock up, a little bit of a look there from Yuri, just as he saw, and he spun a little bit of loss of traction on exit, loses a position to the other Toro Rosso of Overjeep. I don't know why he went to try and make... And Ahmed is out of this Grand Prix. He has retired, and VSL has lost a position to his fellow speed teammate. What he needs to do now is, not only is he now stuck behind Lee, he's stuck behind another Toro Rosso. That's two thorns in his side of any chance of clawing any points back in this championship. As with him dropping down, and he gets another 3-second time for his, I believe that's 6 now, and I think Matt has 0. I'll have a little quick look just in case, but with DRS activated on Yuri's car and not on Robotic, and as you can see, Mada did make his pit stop onto the fresh ultras, and he has come out in front of the Toro Rosso, so he did manage to push and get in front of the Toro Rosso. It was very close. What he needs to do now is he's going to take a lap to build himself onto these fresh ultras, because they're going to be a lot more grippier than the 12 lap old ultras he was previously on. But it seems to me that Matt has guaranteed himself P2. He was going to guarantee himself a podium position anyway, but P2, as long as he can stick it, keep it out of the barriers, unlike a few other drivers, keep it out of the barriers, and he gets himself a nice position 2 for F1. I'm starting to pull away from Lee, 1.6 gap to him, and then the two Toro Rosso boys have created a gap between themselves, 1.6, and Yuri is still behind the Toro Rossos. 10 laps to go in this race, 10 laps to think. Well, I'll say 10 laps to think, as Metza has been passed by Mada. Very sensible, I think, but probably made it look easy. But with the fresher compound of the tyres, he's going to be pushing away. I don't think he'll get anywhere near Neo with a 39-second gap to him. Admittedly, it is due to the fact that Mada did take a 2-stop rather than the 1-stop, but still 39-second lead. Neo could make a pit stop and still take the lead if he wants. That's interesting. Could you get a single bonus point for the fastest lap? Neo could think about that. If he knows the gap behind of 39 seconds, he can make a pit stop towards the end, put on a fresh set of hypers, which he didn't use any, as I'm aware of, in qualifying, and they could just pump in fastest lap, bag himself a bonus point. But other than that, Neo is going to be taking a very comfortable victory, as we saw him take in Belgium as well. Mata looks like he's going to be taking a comfortable second, as long as he keeps out of the barriers, as we said. Metza is being closed in by the Toro Rosso of Lee. It's probably just controlling the pace now, Metza. He knows he's in first place in F2. He knows that he can bag himself 25 points quite easily without putting it in the wall. So if it comes to it, does he let Lee through? But then again, will Lee hold him up? As we've seen, Lee was holding YS up. So does he take the gamble and let Lee through, and then he can just control his own race, or does he get pressured by Lee as he starts to close in on him? Because he is within that 1 second window, so DRS will be active and he'll be stuck in the slipstream. So, and also because we've seen Lee locking up, if they get close enough and Lee locks up, it could be a calamity for Metza if any contact is put onto the McLaren driver. As Ivo Mada sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, he looks like he's going to be getting the bonus point for F1, unless Neo strategically makes a pit stop for fresher tyres. But yeah, those fresh ultras coming into his own now for Mada. He has closed a second in on Neo, but there aren't 38 laps left, so you haven't got 38 seconds. You've got 38 seconds to go, so there's not 38 laps for you. There are 9 laps for you to do that, unless you can pump in some blistering, horrendous 1 minute 30s. I don't think you have to get anywhere near Neo. But P2, he'll be very happy with that. Will matter. Metza still in front of Lee. Lee's starting to drop back over the 1 second window now. So, but I think all these drivers are now just controlling themselves. They've seen these drivers lose it. They've of Ahmed and Flexi and Matthew all losing their positions in this Grand Prix and not finishing. So it's just focus now for the end. You've done 23 laps. Why push it any further for the final 7 or 8 laps? But the gap between 4th and 6th is quite close. Oh, not even that. 3rd and 6th. These 4 drivers look like they're going to be all aboard the Metzer trainer lane, all aboard the McLaren train. Will he be leading them to victory, or will he be leading them into a barrier? Who knows indeed. As will these gaps stay the same? The only thing that really needs to be battling is Matt and Racer, because they're the ones battling for points positions in their tier, and it's sort of quieted down towards the back of the grid between Davis and Kyle. Gap is still within a second, but Kyle doesn't look to be making any moves, as he does run a little bit wide, gets DRS open. He's getting DRS every lap, but he's just not getting anywhere close enough to making any moves. Davis seems to be making a good job of getting better traction out of these corners, where it can lead Kyle to making a move up the inside, or even forcing him to the outside. So good job there from the Ferrari of Davis. Going towards the drivers' standings, if they stay as they are, Neo will bag himself at least, no, it will be 26 points, because he has he got pole for F1 and race of victory, so he'll be at 26, so he'll be on 53 points after starting 2 races before this in Spa. Matt will be happy with bagging himself a 2nd place, 18 points for him. That will reel in Matt Tibos in the F1 standings, closing it from 75 all the way down to 58 points, or 57 points. It is 57. And then Metzer will be very happy if he guarantees himself a victory. He will overtake, or he won't overtake, he'll be level on points. No, he will overtake. If he takes a victory here, he will overtake RoboJeep and Y-Racer in the standings, and he will be the one wanting to force a title charge on Kyle, rather than Y-Racer wanting to claw himself back into this. So it's literally going to be a 4-way scrap to the end for F2. It could turn into a 3-way scrap, or even a 2-way scrap for F1 if Tibos either makes more mistakes or doesn't come to any other races. But the league to be watching is F2, as Y-Racer has pit. I'm interested why he's done that. I've just noticed it now. It's like, why are you in 8th place? Why are you in last? You did realise you are going to be losing the more points to Kyle, and you've lost even more points to Metzer and more points to RoboJeep. Is that a single point worth it? Is that 1 point worth it for closing in the gap of 8 seconds to... is it 8 seconds? 8 seconds? 8 points to Kyle in the title race? Who knows? Because he'll be furthering... Not only will he fall, he'll be falling away by just... He will fall a further 1 point back, but... Are these, or has he found out that Carl has the fastest lap and he wants to take it away? Or did he have wing damage? I didn't look like he did. He could have done, from the gap between himself and where he was positioned on the standings. But very interesting call from Racer. He does want the single point for fastest lap, so he'll just want to push now towards the end. He will probably push for 1 lap to get another penalty, so this won't count as the fastest lap because it'll be invalidated. So what he has to do now is focus and push and not corner cut, otherwise. And he did realise he did have now 9 seconds worth of penalties, so that could have dropped him down further anyway. So maybe it was a clever call just to push for the fastest lap if he was going to drop down. But the gap between Major Davis and RoboJeep is 16 seconds, so even with even with 9 seconds worth of penalties, he would have been comfortably taking podium position out of this race. So he is starting to close in. Kyle, the gap is now 7.2. Kyle is still being held up by the Ferrari of Major Davis. Seems to me that they've calmed themselves down from barging each other and bashing wheels and shoving each other into walls and being a little bit feisty in this Grand Prix. So Kyle is probably going to bide his time probably for the final few laps if he wants to make any moves in this Grand Prix. Lee is right on the back of Metzer still. Lee hasn't managed to get through, both on the same lap old tyres. But this does this help? Does this help RoboJeep in trying to claw his way towards race victory? Because if Lee keeps on the back of Metzer and RoboJeep claws him into the second, if Lee was sensible enough, let Matt through and give him a chance of fighting for the win in F2. But it looks like Lee to be making a move. He's going to go for the outside. Metzer forcing the outside. A little bit of a lock up from Lee. Metzer's going to have the inside line for the following corner. You don't want to go side by side through there, as we have seen between Davis and Kyle. Sensibly there, Lee holds back, and he's just going to have to shape up another chance or another. Where is he going to overtake? Another point for making moves. As you can see, yeah, RoboJeep has clawed the gap to within a second. A little bit of a squeeze. Metzer makes it through. But is that a mistake from Metzer though? Because he hasn't realised that RoboJeep is right on the back of these two, and he was going to let him through, but he only realised, holy hell, his teammate of RoboJeep and his fellow F2 driver is right there behind him. He nearly lost 2 positions in the space of 1 corner from thinking that he wants to let Lee through rather than battle with him. Now he needs to really think, because the gap between himself and RoboJeep is only 1.5 seconds. So even if he does try and lift to let Lee through, he's going to be vulnerable for Matt for the following corner. So it looks like Lee's going to have a better run now. He's right on the gearbox of Metzer. Will Metzer let him through? He's going to have DRS and slipstream. Metzer doesn't cover the inside. Lee doesn't go for the inside. He sticks in the slipstream towards turn 1. And yeah, almost calamity for McLaren. It's like, what were you thinking? The boys in orange didn't have their heads on straight there. They wanted to let him through, but realised he nearly cost himself 25 points and a race victory. So will Lee get the move now done? Up the inside, he has the inside line. He locks up a little bit. Metzer lets him through, and comfortably. Now what Metzer can do now is, if he can stick within the 1 second window, he can start pulling himself along with Lee, although he seems to have dropped back a little bit, so it could be those tyres are starting to have a lot of wear on them. So he has dropped behind the 1 second. Does he want a final scrap with RoboJeep for race victory? Will it be a dash to the line between these two drivers? RoboJeep does have 3 lap newer soft compound tyres, so, and the gap is 1.3 seconds. Do they want to put a show on for us, ladies and gentlemen, for the final few laps? There hasn't been many overtakes, not much action in this Grand Prix for me to be commentating on. Mainly just relaying like gaps and tyres and all that waffle that you might get out of a Grand Prix. But yeah, can it be interesting towards the end? These are the 2 battles to be watching: McLaren versus Toro Rosso and Ferrari versus the sister team of the Haas. And can Warrior get himself in the mix? How are those hypersofts holding up? 3.3 seconds the gap to Kyle. Can Davis park the bus, force Kyle backwards towards Warrior so he can catch up? Under 3 seconds now the gap. But will those tyres last? Will those hypers be anywhere near as in good enough condition to be challenging to overtake Kyle in the final few laps? There are going to be 3 laps left, although Wyerster will have to do 4 because he's just started lap 28. So 2.4 seconds to gap, slowly closing him in. He is on a lot softer compound tyres compared to the 2 drivers in front of him. So So this could have been a good call for Wire. So he can still get himself in front of Kyle, but he has to make it clean. He has to make it that he doesn't want to force him way through. Don't want to be a barging through like the Sesame bird through a bowling door. So he doesn't want to be he is in yellow after all. He doesn't want to be doing that, just smashing down doors and just forcing his way through places. He does have 9 seconds worth of penalties, whereas Kyle, I believe, has none. Quick run through penalties, as there is little, next to nothing happening. Neo, as you can see, has 2 penalties. We'll look at these guys at the back first. So we've got YSC, he's got 1, 2, 3 penalties. 3 second penalties. Kyle has just 2 warnings. So if he does get another warning, he will have 1 penalty, but it won't do anything in YSC's chances in overtaking him unless he has an absolute calamity. Wants to make a last dash move on Davis. But he's starting to fall away now. He's out of the 1 second window and then back in. Was he within the 1 second window when he crossed the detection zone? No, he wasn't. He is only going to have slipstream down towards turn 1 as they start lap 29 of 31. So this is the battle we're going to be watching. It seems to me that Robo has fallen away from Matt, so the gap to them is 1.6. So I think Matt's going to be like, I'm going to take P2 now. There's no way in hell I'm going to be losing this. They're trying to battle with Metzer just for the victory. It is key. Normal drivers would battle for the victory, like put a ride or die into it for those 25 points and a nice Singapore trophy. But they need to realise that with a track like this, if you try and make moves, that it could just end up with you in the barrier and the other driver taking a victory. So it is starting to close back in. As I say, he's probably listening to me right now. I'm probably telling him to push, 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 but does he be sensible or not? And the gap between Ryerson now is just a second. Just 1 measly second. He's literally 8 tenths behind Kyle now, his championship rival for F2. Will he be making any late dives, any late pushes for the position? It wouldn't really. It'll be a position on track, but it won't be a position in the standings because of the penalties. So does he just risk it or not, knowing that he has more penalties than Kyle? So Matt's fight seems to have clawed his way back onto the back of the big orange Metzer as we see. And through turn 5 he will have DRS. Does he have a better exit than Metzer? I don't think so, but he will have slipstream. Quick look at ERS. Plenty of ERS for Matt, plenty of ERS for Metzer, so both of them can cover each other on ERS. It's all going to be down to Matt now. Matt's racecraft of where can he overtake if he wants to bag himself another victory for F2 in that shiny Toro Rosso. We are on the final lap of this Grand Prix. It seems to have flown by, but for IRT Neo it couldn't have been easier enough for him. 43 seconds the gap between himself and fellow F1 driver of EVR Matter as he's about to start lap 31. Yeah, but an absolute storm for Neo. Pole position and just ran away with it. The one stop was the best strategy, but Matter will be happy as he will be guaranteeing himself another podium position in VSL. Keeping an eye on the gaps between the other drivers, mainly the F2 drivers that are battling away for themselves for podium positions, because Carl needs to realise that is for a podium position between himself and Davis. And you want to be a party crasher, if anything. Just spoil the fun. He does get himself another 3 second penalty as we just ride on board with Neo coming through the final sector now, final few corners of this 23 lap wonderful circuit, and around the final corner he goes. Magnificent drive from the Haas driver, bags himself another victory, 25 points, and shows you how it's done around the street track of Singapore. Evie O'Malley will be very happy with his drive. The two stops actually has sort of worked with a few calamities between the other F1 drivers. Gets himself as a firework start to go off now. He'll be seeing that. He'll be thinking, yes, that's me done for the day. Nice P2 for me. Nice podium as he gives the wall a little love tap on the way out. Don't be doing that, Matt. You don't want to be ending without a wheel, as we saw in another race around this track. Someone wanted to start and finish the line without a wheel, and was thankfully, because they'd crossed the line, was given the victory. And across the line goes Mallet for P2. Will be very happy with that. Great job from Ferrari. Lee very quiet. He did have a little bout, and Juarez has made the move very late on Kyle. It looks like he may have hit the wall. Very late move as we were riding well with the drivers from the front. 5-second stop go penalty for Kyle for exceeding track limits. Juarez said, I don't know what you've been doing, fella, but luckily I didn't catch it on stream. As Leaf crosses the line in P3, that rounds out the the VSL F1 drivers. Big Metzer gets himself a victory in front of Overdeep for VSL F2, and Davis looks like he's going to get himself a podium position. That's a double podium position for Ferrari. Fantastic work for them. He managed to hold up the Haas driver to stop him from getting Haas a double podium themselves. So as we go through the standings now, Neo takes a fantastic victory in P1 for F1. Evie O'Malley with P2, Lee with P3. That rounds out the only drivers left in F1. Big Metzer gets himself a fantastic win for McLaren in F2 with Verbergy very close behind on the line to take position 2, with Davis rounded out the podium positions for Ferrari and F2. Kyle takes P4 away from Y-Racer, who gets himself a wonderful 12-second penalties. And then we have Ahmed. The people that did not manage to finish was Ahmed, Lizani Gaming, Flexi, Zenki, and EFC Matthew. So I am going to round off this fantastic, well, I say fantastic, stream for VSL round 15. Please be sure to join us next week, where we are going to be at Russia. It's going to be interesting to see who gets themselves onto the plane there from Singapore to show Putin what they've got. So with that note, I'm going to bid farewell to you guys who have been watching, and see you all next time.